It's been a much different year with players like Daniel Jones scoring more than Tom Brady and usual standout players like Keenan Allen and Alvin Kamara still trying to find their spark. Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Brendan Conroy alongside Nolan, Collery, and Michael Landis, and we are here to deliver some of our takes on who you might want to keep your eye on this fantasy season and who you might want to let go. We are nearly halfway through the regular season, so we've had some time to scope out the talent this season. Nolan, I'm going to come to you first. Can you give me any players, maybe three, that you would think you need to add or maybe keep an eye on because they've just been performing very well this season?
I tell you what, I'm going to give you two for the price of one, and those two are going to be the Panthers running backs. We're looking at Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman. Hard names to say, but you better start remembering them. This is an offense without Christian McCaffrey, without any identity, a revolving door at quarterback. We're looking at a solid thunder and lightning style running back duo now. Foreman has really solid receiving upside, big, he moves well, and Chuba has pure speed that you really like to see on the end, in the end zone right at the goal line. So look for a lot of goal line touches there, a lot of big scoring days, maybe 2 touchdown days, but expect the big yardage numbers and receiving numbers to come from Foreman. Now, not to be the Foreman on the Chuba train, because you're going to get off and stop at the Gus bus. Gus Edwards, running back, Baltimore Ravens. It's time to believe. 16 carries for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns on his last win against the Cleveland Browns. Now, I don't think he can sustain it, but I think he'll put up another performance similar to this, and he's going to be great trade bait looking down the line. Let your fellow league mates believe in this hype even more than you do and acquire yourself a solid player. Now, this is the only time I'm ever going to be able to say this. You have the opportunity to get the tight end 2 in fantasy right now. Mark Andrews just put up a goose egg. 2 targets, 0 points. His only cool play of the whole day was a little flip to Lamar Jackson. It was pretty neat. But this is your chance to pick him up. Now, the only way you can do this, let's say you've got a league mate who drafted him in the first round. They've got 1 win, they've got 0 wins, and they are panicking. Offer them your tight end and your flex right now. Offer them right now, and you will get Mark Andrews. This is going to be your league-winning move. Mark Andrews is a difference maker. He was tight end 1 last year over Travis Kelce. If you don't have Travis Kelce on your roster, you have every reason to try and get Mark Andrews right off that stinker of a performance.
I mean, Nolan, you could not have hit the nail on the head better than what you said about Gus Edwards. With Lamar not being the running quarterback that we know him as or the running QB that we've expected him to be this season because of the past, Edwards getting those carries, getting those scores, really, really helps out Baltimore, and it keeps their offense producing and running in case Lamar can't get those throws or can't get those runs like we've seen. Mark Andrews, I just picked up Hawkinson, so I'm in a decent spot right now with tight ends, but definitely what you said, if he is on your waiver wire, pick him up and throw whoever you need to at him. Throw receivers, throw running backs, throw a quarterback if you need to. Throw whoever you can to get this tight end, because having a tight end that is strong, that can produce, and that can get scores, not just block, is the key to success in fantasy. It's almost a cheat code. But Michael, I want to hear what you have to say. If you have any 3 players that you think we need to keep our eye on and get on our team right now.
Yeah, for me, absolutely. My first guy is George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he has merged himself as the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and he is available in 45% of fantasy leagues. If you're able to get him, go get him right now. Since he had Mitch Trubisky to start off with, he was scoring less than 4 points per game as his quarterback. But then they switched to Pickett, and he was averaging over 14 points per game over his last 4 games. If he's available, he is a clear flex option for you, and if you can get him, absolutely go for him right away. And going off of that, another wide receiver that I'm looking for is Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Detroit Lions. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, he was averaging over 24 points per game, an amazing production and a really late round steal for most people who probably drafted this guy in the 7th or 8th round this year. But he sustained an ankle injury in week 3 against the Vikings, and since then he has not been the same, and this past weekend he sustained a concussion in this last game. Fantasy managers are really frustrated, and rightfully so. Right now is a great time to buy low on him, because if you can get him, he's the true wide receiver 1 and option 1 in this offense, and he can be a league winner for you if you can get him. And my last guy is Michael Carter from the Jets. If you were able to pick him up from your waiver wire, he's available in 32% of leagues, and we just found out that the Jets actually just traded for James Robinson for a conditional 6th-round pick, which does affect his upside. However, I still believe that Carter is a great receiving back, and the Jets will need to look to rely on him in this passing game if they want to continue to succeed. So if he's available, he will get you your points. He's a great flex option or an RB2 option.
Yeah, I think St. Brown is awesome. That is somebody who you want to get on your team. It reminds me of almost a 2020 Cooper Kupp. Before he exploded, before he was getting 25, 30 points a game, he was getting the 5 to 10, and then towards the playoffs, towards week 14 in that season, he started getting 25, 30 points. This is what St. Brown's doing. It's almost scary when these receivers start scoring so much when they're not expected to, because then they can go and bounce off into 40s and even 50 points like we've seen guys like Tyreek Hill do. And when those players sneak into your roster and they give you those points, it's almost a guaranteed win each week. People who do that are Patrick Mahomes, Jamar Chase, those type of caliber athletes in fantasy score that much. Having a guy that's not as well known or not as big in the league is awesome. So, like to see that, a little more of that. But Nolan, I'm going to come at you right now with my next question, which is, if you were to add 3, let's go on the opposite side, who would you throw to the waiver wire or try to throw away onto some other team that might be in your league?
Yeah, this hurts me to say because he's one of my favorite personalities, one of my favorite guys in the NFL. It's Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. A lot of people were really high on him, especially with no good wide receiving options for Aaron Rodgers this year, but his snap share of 62% doesn't line up well with A.J. Dillon's 50%. There's a lot of sharing that's going on, and if I want a real running back 1, I don't want him to be sharing the ball. I want it to be his backfield clearly. He's only had 2 games over 18 points scoring this year. All of his points making him the RB9 total have come from 2 games. He has 1 rushing touchdown all year with 2 receiving. If I own Aaron Jones, I'm okay with him as my RB2. I'm great with him as my RB2 or my flex, but I don't want him as my RB1. If you can make a move for a Joe Mixon type by packaging him with a flex player, I'm absolutely doing it.
Yeah, and what I think is funny about that is, you know who I just picked up the other day? Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones.
But I got him with a little deal, so I got Brady in there, I got Hawkinson in there with that deal, and a couple of receivers. So it worked out. I had to give up Mahomes and Jacobs, but it all worked out in the end because I got the pieces that I need, and I won this week. Mm-hmm. So can't complain too much there, but I do think it's funny you mention Aaron Jones because although he's only receiving 62% of the snaps, I feel like the season could look up for him. We've seen Rodgers struggle a little bit, just in general this season, whether it's the passing game or the running game. So if Aaron Jones can step up like he is expected to do and receive more snaps, we've seen him, we know the beast he is. He can get those drives. He can get those touchdowns and those scores. If he's receiving it, it's PPR league, better for me. I don't care how he gets the scores, but I know that he's the type of player that can, and in these upcoming weeks, I expect him to produce, but, it's not my call. We'll see what happens in the league. Michael, what do you think about somebody you need to, throw to the waiver wire or try to sneak onto somebody else's team and, not have them on your team anymore?
Yeah, for me, it's absolutely trade away Najee Harris. He has been just completely awful this year. He is the RB21 this year, and he has not had a game over 14 points. It's simply ridiculous compared to last season and the production that he had. And now I know the Steelers' offensive line is atrocious. He's had bad quarterback play. He's had Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky. They haven't been getting him the ball, but that's the problem. And he's been splitting backfield touches with Jaylen Warren, which has really been hurting his fantasy play. I don't even know what people could get for him now. I don't even think he's tradable at this point. I mean, honestly, most people might just have to stick with him for the rest of the season. And I would say if you're able to get anything for him now, even a strong wide receiver 2, an RB2, and a solid wide receiver, go for that right now because Najee Harris has no fantasy value right now, and he is only going to hurt your team.
Yeah, when it comes to wide receivers, running backs are probably the most important thing in fantasy. They get you the most points, but receivers, when it's a points per reception league, it is so important that they're getting those touches, so important that they're getting those catches because 5 catches is 5 points. That is a huge difference and can be a game changer in the league. So we're going to have to see what happens with these fantasy players and see if our predictions live up to the hype because I know I want to win this league and I want to keep my players on my team that I like, and the ones that aren't too great, throw them to anyone else in my league. Let them deal with it. That's going to do it for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Nolan Collery and Michael Landis, I'm Brendan Conroy. Thank you and have a great night, everyone.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.